back to another episode of Football Heritage here with your host, Stephen Clark. So today I thought I'd kind of do something a little bit different with the news of Erling Haaland having officially signed for Chelsea Football Club as of last night. Chelsea fans have a lot to be excited about, a lot to kind of anticipate, and I guess a lot to think about as well, because it's been a really interesting summer for us. Obviously, it's well known and documented that our first target for the striking position was Erling Haaland from Borussia Dortmund, and that Romelu Lukaku was very much the sort of backup or second option. Now, he was the second option that has ended up costing us 100 million euros, and also he's a player that we have sold previously. So understandably, there's a lot of questions from the fan base, sort of, I guess, kind of asking why maybe we've signed sort of the second choice. And I've kind of poured through the data and the statistics, and I think I've found kind of the main reasons why Chelsea have decided to go down this path. And I thought that the best way to look at this and to kind of look at the pros and cons of Romelu Lukaku is to compare him to the player which the club were comparing him to, essentially, in Erling Haaland. So without any further ado, let's get into this. So right off the bat, I've got some statistics here that I've got from Who Scored, which is a great little website there for football statistics. So we know that Erling Haaland is a just genuine world-class talent. He probably is the most sought-after forward man in football at the moment, and we know that next season he has a 75 million euro release clause from Borussia Dortmund, meaning that every single club in the world essentially is going to be in for him, specifically the kind of big clubs, your Real Madrid's, Barcelona's, once they're able to sort out their financial issues with another year gone past. With also Manchester United will likely be in the hunt for a striker, and who knows with the other kind of comings and goings what might be available. Lewandowski might be leaving Bayern Munich, so it's a whole bunch of opportunities that are going to come up for this guy. He's genuinely probably one of, if not the best young goal scorer of all time, just statistically. So when I first heard that Chelsea were in for Erling Haaland, obviously that was super exciting, because I think that to be linked to a player like that means that your club is trending in the right direction, for one, but also to actually have a chance of landing him, and to hear the things that we heard from numerous reports that Erling Haaland was willing to come to Chelsea. I think you only get that kind of opportunity once in a generation. You know, Chelsea had it with Eden Hazard near on a decade ago, and just thinking back to the impact that he had on our club, it is kind of hard not to dream what Erling Haaland could have been. But having said all of that about Erling Haaland and all the praise, and undeniably he's an excellent player, we've got Romelu Lukaku, and though I might be coming across a bit downbeat about Romelu Lukaku, I'm really not. So the thing about Lukaku is that he is just a genuine world-class goal scorer. He's in the top 3 strikers in the world right now. I think I'd only really put him behind Lewandowski and Benzema, and then arguably Erling Haaland. It's sort of a toss of a coin for me in terms of what they bring right now to their teams. I think Erling Haaland will obviously surpass him in the coming years, but what Romelu Lukaku can offer right now is super unique, and I think that it's going to benefit Chelsea greatly this season. As anyone who's seen my predictions will know, I've predicted Chelsea to win the league this season, rather dangerously, and from a Chelsea point of view at least. So yeah, let's have a look at at the key statistics of these two players. So the first one that I want to bring to the attention is probably the main sort of statistic that we would use to break down a striker's usefulness to a team, which is obviously their goal scoring. So last season, Romelu Lukaku scored 24 goals in Serie A, and Erling Haaland scored 27 goals in the Bundesliga. So fairly comparable there, though you would have to give Erling Haaland a slight edge on this one, just because that 6 of those, I believe, were penalties for Lukaku, and I believe only 2 of them were for Haaland. So out of open field play goals, Erling Haaland definitely has the slight advantage going off last season's form anyway. But the goals don't exactly always tell the entire picture, especially when it comes to kind of the modern game and what is required from a striker and sort of all the things that is being asked of them. And that is where things do get interesting. And if you look at the shots per 90, for example, from both players, you've got 2.80 for Lukaku and 3.36 for Erling Haaland per game. So fairly similar, but again, it's another statistic that Erling Haaland takes the lead in there in the comparison. So it's definitely an area that Romelu Lukaku can grow, I think, and that's something that I earmarked in my predictions as well with Lukaku. I expect that number to grow with the amount of chances that he's going to have playing for this Chelsea side, with the likes of Pulisic, Mason Mount, Kai Havertz, Hakim Ziyech, Timo Werner, Reece James, Ben Chilwell, all elite creators in their own way. So we're going to see a lot of chances come for the front man. Interestingly enough, Lukaku himself does bring chances to the side, which I think overall might not seem like the most necessary attribute for this Chelsea side, having just listed about 6 or 7 players capable of consistently racking up assists and shot creating actions. But Romelu Lukaku himself brings 0.31 assists per game. So if we look at it from that point of view, he gets an assist every 3 games, which is really good for a striker who essentially is playing every minute of the entire season. And compared to Erling Haaland's 0.23, which obviously would round up to be about 1 in every 4 games, it's a slight difference, but it does change. It takes Erling Haaland is in the 87th percentile for that statistic, while Romelu Lukaku is in the 93rd percentage. So Lukaku is essentially trending in that department in the absolute elite. In essentially nobody, there's only a handful of players in the world who play in his position that can contribute those kind of numbers. So specifically, we actually are getting a player who can contribute a lot of assists, and he got 10 assists last season in Serie A. So I think that bringing that sort of all-round final third attacking kind of balance is going to be interesting, and something that maybe a lot of people aren't expecting. I think a lot of people are expecting Lukaku to be this sort of tap-in merchant or sort of lethal goal striker, which he is, but I think he also brings a lot more. And what might back that up a little bit more for anyone listening is Lukaku's 3.55 shot creating actions per game. So having just listed that Lukaku only gets the 2.8 shots per game, he's creating a further shot essentially per game. So every single game he's creating another shot for a teammate. So those kind of things, when you're at an elite club, your shot per goal ratio tends to be quite high, specifically in a club that's performing well, meaning that every shot that you create it's not just a useless statistic on a page. It actually is a meaningful moment within a game and a goal scoring opportunity, and a serious goal scoring opportunity, the way these statistics are usually collated. And if we compare that to Erling Haaland, who only has the 2.43 shot actions per game, which lands him in the 61st percentile. So that's actually quite weak in terms of that statistic, and he doesn't really rank up against the other strikers in his position. Obviously, the thing with Erling Haaland is that he's got a lot of years to grow on Romelu Lukaku. Lukaku is now entering the later stages of his career, but also when I say later stages, what I really mean is the prime years now. You'd expect to get at least 3 good goal-scoring seasons out of him, which is really exciting for Chelsea fans, because we haven't had that sort of presence, that strong, big, reliable goal-scoring presence up front since Diego Costa left the club. And then furthermore, since Drogba before that, we've had a long string of players who we thought were kind of these technical sort of geniuses that could kind of fit into maybe the more progressive play styles that Chelsea coaches of the last decade have tried to implement in the side. The likes of Morata and Torres, these guys were famed for kind of their silkiness and their sort of ability on the ball. I think going back to Chelsea's roots and to what has worked in the past is never a bad thing. Specifically when it's worked so well with the likes of Drogba and Costa, like I mentioned. So I think Lukaku has the opportunity to be that kind of player for Chelsea, and I think that this team is just calling out for that player to arrive and to essentially make that mark on the team. Now, while I do think that Haaland could have been that player, I think that Lukaku just has that all-round balance to his game. So if we look at some other stats here, Lukaku last season had 1,175 touches, while Haaland had 762. So Lukaku's actually getting involved about a quarter more in the game over an entire season than Erling Haaland. So he's a player who's going to affect the game in all areas of the pitch. He won't be this kind of goal hanger that we might expect. He will try and drop in and play a little bit as well. While also having the silkiness that maybe people don't expect him to, because there is this kind of rumor that he has no first touch, which is essentially a lie. Because if you look at the amount of touches that he has and the amount of shot-creating actions that he has, the statistics bear out really well. Another thing that is definitely worth bearing out is his passes leading to a shot. So this is kind of a further extension of the statistic we talked about earlier. He has 80, Romelu Lukaku, has 88 last season passes leading to a shot, while Haaland had 39. So, as we can see there, he's really taking up the mantle for Inter Milan, who he played for last season, and that is why he won the MVP, because he wasn't just this kind of tap-in merchant, he was affecting the pitch all around the final third. Another underrated facet of Lukaku's game, which I think he'll bring something really strong to Chelsea, is his one aerial clearance per game. And I think that just helping solidify those defensive corners, just having that striker's presence who will come back, help the defense out, is something that we've kind of lacked. We've had Tammy Abraham, who was pretty decent at it, but would often be muscled off the ball, or at times if he wasn't able to compete physically with opposition players, he'd usually be stuck on the back or the posts, essentially, to kind of guard those positions. Whereas Lukaku is the kind of player who you can reliably put in the middle of the center square, and he's going to compete with everyone every single time. He's just incredibly strong, incredibly tall, and he's going to be a great use to the Chelsea team in that defensive action as well. Just bearing out the stats that overall, if you look at the entire package, and this Chelsea side that is looking to win now, we are building for the future. We have a lot of really strong young players, but we need that balance of someone who's ready now to take up a mantle and someone coming in their absolute prime. We arguably don't have a lot of players in their perfect prime right now. Probably only N'Golo Kante, likes of maybe Jorginho, and maybe Rudiger. But the rest of the players, you'd argue, are either slightly past their prime, but still have a lot to offer the side, or extremely young, and while they may be performing really well, like Mason Mount or Reece James, Ben Chilwell, these sort of guys, and Kai Havertz, they still have a long way to go, and the best of them will come in probably 2 to 3 seasons still. So to have someone like Romelu Lukaku, who's going to be the perfect sort of the perfect model professional as well, to just usher these players into their prime, I think is a really smart move by the club, and I think that it's probably one of the reasons why, when they received the number that Dortmund wanted for Romelu Lukaku, for Erling Haaland, they decided that Lukaku might be the better package overall, and maybe that the difference between spending 100 million euros and 200 million euros just wasn't worth it for the slight increase on goals that Erling Haaland might produce. So the difference between 24 goals and 27 goals essentially to the club wasn't worth an extra 100 million euros. And I can see why a lot of fans would be disappointed at that, because at first I was as well. If you look at, just what Erling Haaland is, just this, he's so tantalizing as a player, because you just know for the next 10 years you have a guaranteed top quality world-class goal scorer who's only going to get better. So it is really hard to say goodbye to the chance at him playing for the club. But I think if we put our sensible hats on for a minute, we can see why the club have made this move. And I do think that this makes us challengers this season, where Erling Haaland arguably might have taken a season to acclimatise, maybe playing around a bunch of young players himself. It might not have worked instantaneously, whereas I think Lukaku definitely will. He will slip in, and he will be one of the league's best players next season. I have no doubt about it. And just to finally touch off as well, I'll just go to kind of one of the main stats that we use, which is just your expected goals in general. And if we look at everything considered, the expected goals last season for Romelu Lukaku was 22.7. And for Erling Haaland, it was 23.7. So there is an argument to be made that, the difference really is just a goal. And is it really worth an extra 100 million? I don't know. So you guys let me know what you think. Would have it been worth spending the extra 100 million just to get Erling Haaland through the door? Do you think Lukaku is the right man for this season? And are you happy with Chelsea's business so far this transfer window? Let me know in the comments down below. Like and subscribe, because I've got a lot of great content coming. I'll be streaming the Chelsea game tomorrow, so really looking forward to that. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.